So let's take a look at some examples of projects that are really about effective strategies for equity in PBL. It's a messy place, our world, especially right now, and we need to be really focused, as we talked about earlier, in regard to intentionality and facilitation of learning experiences for students, making sure that the work is relevant and pertinent, and that PBL and personalization are the focus of what we're trying to do to create equity. So let's look at some of those kinds of examples of personalization. Here's a project called Along Came a Spider. You can access this project at projectfoundry.com in our resources section with a series of other webinars and experiences and materials that might be useful to you. This particular project is very intentional about working to build skill in students around life science, in creating a field journal, building taxonomies, and to do that in collaborative groups and to become connected with a tool called iNaturalist.com for citizen science work. And it's a very explicitly laid out for that work. There are a lot of support materials there. You might find this a valuable project. It was designed for middle school, but it would easily adapt to high school or drop down to lower grades as well. This was the home of one of the spiders that we discovered, and you'll see some lovely pictures of him if you go to this project. Or her, I think her. Then in the world of intention and facilitation, I wanted to point to the project that we talked about earlier about the mill pond. That was a student's project, but as a teacher, I took that project and split it into 4 projects. Here's an example of the first one, because I wanted to get really intentional about the questions, the tasks, the evidence, the assessment we were going to do, and what learning to learn skills we were going to be about. And so you'll see here, this is about the ecological opportunities and challenges of Mill Pond for citizens and the environment. We're going to do research, we're going to do a seminar on photosynthesis, and we're going to meet with some experts. They're going to build skills around interviews and summarizing those interviews, and we're also going to, as you look at these skills, we're going to dive into quality research and note-taking along with the interviewing skills. So there's some real work on learning to learn skills here, intentional and real relevance to the kind of work students are going to be needing to do for the rest of their high school experiences. Some of the resulting materials I thought you'd be interested in seeing. For the seminar on photosynthesis, students produced posters about photosynthesis, summarizing their learning. Some of these were formative tasks, others were summative. We studied ecosystem research, and students built their field journals around this ecosystem research work. They did note-taking. We learned Cornell note-taking skills and then added sketch notes to that. You'll find a lot of information about sketch notes online that'll be useful to you. So you might take a look at those. Here are some examples of some of the note-taking that students did. And then lastly, we did interviews of scientists at the university who were working with us. We built the interview questions together and used them again and again so that we could have some commonality across our interviewing and the ability to summarize in an organized way. So this intentionality about the skills that were going to be taught really led to rigor in this project. Kids felt really capable as well. They came out of this feeling like they knew a lot about how to do science work. This, on the other hand, is one student. This is Dorothy, a 6th grader from San Francisco, California, and she made a pandemic pledge to do a drawing a day for a month and post them on the internet, on Instagram. And these are examples of that work. Some of the great things that came out of this for this student were a new business selling stickers on an internet site, stickers that she created. And another great outcome was that one of her paintings was of a LaCroix water can, And it just so happened on Instagram that LaCroix, someone from LaCroix, saw her watercolor and asked her if it would be possible to use it on their website. So pretty cool for a sixth grader. And she did this work for a whole month, and these are just some of the examples of what she did. It is amazing to think of what might come next. And to think of this also as a narrative, a personal narrative for this student of what's going on for her and things that she's interested in capturing, sharing, what she's thinking about. The next two come from Durango Big Picture High School in Durango, Colorado. The first one's about math, and they were trying to personalize the standards and create student buy-in. Math was a particular challenge for them, and so they did this work around math and art, geometry, and creating an art example of that. These are two of the results of that work. One's a student who loved art, and the other a student who hated art. But both of them learned their geometry and more about themselves as learners. This project from Durango is a local project, so getting really into personal interests and connection. A lot of kids were passionate about this fire that took place not far from their school and what was happening to the land and to reclaiming that. There was also a mine spill that was involved in this ecological work. Kids found it really relevant, got really passionate about it, and worked with scientists from the area. This is the Yakama Nation Tribal School. We looked at this a little earlier in this webinar, and the power of this work for students around their own narratives of their lives. This is their land. This is a problem their nation faces and what to do about it. And so they worked with elders from the tribe as well as from the university to try to solve this problem. Really adding to their own personal narrative about who they are as tribal members and as learners. These next two projects come from Compass Community Collaborative School in Fort Collins. This was about making movies one related to climate change and the other going to another planet, to Mars. And these are venture projects that are done at Compass and involve groups of students working together with teachers. Their emphasis you can see down here, and they're all interdisciplinary and trying to have some impact on their community. This is a care project, an individual project about something a student cares about. Their emphasis is here about self-management, risk-taking, and design thinking. And Adrian is a sixth grader who just was crazy about computers and wanted to build one. And so he found a partner, a community partner, to help him do that. And really think of what he's adding to his own narrative of who he is as learner and to his own agency. This is the power of project-based learning. So the Chicken and the Egg project, there are many of these you can find online. This one is from Mexico City, and it's a project that's been around for some time. The beauty of this project is the lovely documentation from beginning to end of this work, from mind mapping with kindergartners all the way to the chicken coops, chickens, eggs, and chicks that occurred, and the power of who they are becoming as learners from little tiny people on. And look at the documentation for kindergartners. Pretty powerful. Flipping to Next Gen Science Standards in their work called Storylines. You can find it online at this title. Here's one on eggs becoming chickens or other living things. There's wonderful documentation here, lots of resources, and a step-by-step process to meet the expectations of the middle school life science standards that will be very useful to you and helpful, especially if you're new at this work and want to see this laid out for you step by step. nextgenstorylines.org, the resources here for you. Here's a project, excuse me, about documenting a project about bees And I have it here to point to documenting project work. This is documented in Foundry, our learning management software for personalizing deeper learning. And it's on a form that is a gold standard PBL form with all of the focus that is needed to really create that kind of project. There are logs about how students are using their time, and there is in fact independent reading detailed logs. You can see if you open them up what students have done to respond about what they're reading. There's also journaling about this project, and it's captured in Foundry as well. And so you see here a student talking about what she really loved about this project and some of the discoveries she made about bees and some of the artwork she found about bees that she wanted to focus on and share because she was interested in it as well, the artwork. The next place I want to take you is to Phnom Penh, Cambodia, to one of our schools, Liger Leadership Academy. You saw a bit of this project a little earlier. This is dinosaur fossils and students working really to hone their real-world science skills around discovery and using tools for discovery in the field. Liger Leadership Academy is working to build leaders for their country because it was so decimated during the Cambodian killing fields, where so many teachers and scientists were killed. And so they're trying to build students who have those skills. Here they are documenting culture around lost music culture in Cambodia and capturing that from elders in their communities to be able to maintain old music that is not recorded in any ways that have been maintained. Really powerful contribution to their community. This project was about dengue fever, which is a serious problem in the area in which they live, and how they could go about solving some of those problems in relationship to the community and water use. Design is an area they work on, design thinking, and in this case students are trying to solve a problem about Quinn, their dog, who can no longer walk with his back legs, and they're trying to create a wheelchair for him. As you can imagine, their interest and passion was really engaged deeply in this project. And then the last project of theirs I'd like to show you is a series of studies of animals, wildlife of Cambodia. They did watercolors of the animals of Cambodia. You see here displayed by the students who did this project in a gallery supported by local businesses. They sold these pictures and they used the money to print a book about the wildlife of Cambodia. It's a beautiful book. They have done 2 others about the economy and the geography of Cambodia. So they learn the content, they do the artwork, they learn the publishing skills, and they do the fundraising for this. The book Cambodian Economy has been purchased by the Cambodian government. It's in every school in Cambodia. So imagine the narrative these young people are creating about their own lives and who they are as learners and leaders. Why just these kids? Why not all of our kids? So I encourage you to take a deeper dive into these resources. There are recorded webinars, again, at projectfoundry.com. I'd be happy to talk with you about this work. You can reach me at Camille@projectfoundry.com. So let's get going. It's a messy world and we need to get into some of these effective strategies. Wish you well. Take courage. Get started. Thanks for being here.